Hey guys, huge episode. We're talking top 10 wide receivers for fantasy football 2021, the ridiculously super early list. Before we get into this, guys, it's a huge opportunity here for you. You get a chance to win a live Zoom call. Yes, like a phone call, but even better, Zoom call live with Chris CJ2K Johnson on February 9th. How to enter? All you guys got to do is head on over to thefantasyfootballcounselor.com and pre-order the 16-round draft solution or Fantasy 365. Well, Joe, what is the 16-round draft solution and what is Fantasy 365? Very simple, guys. 16-round draft solution is a virtual training, yes, a video training of me walking you through all the optimal players to draft in each round. I help people crush their leagues in 2020. I'm going to help you guys do it again with my staple course, the 16-round draft solution, and you can get it for the lowest price. I've also linked it below here on YouTube. Now, what is Fantasy 365? I've created the most exclusive, most passionate fantasy football community ever created. Fantasy 365 is an amazing community where you can talk fantasy football 365 days a year. Head on over to thefantasyfootballcounselor.com under programs. Check both of them out. And of course, if you guys pre-order right now, between now until the Super Bowl, you get a chance to win. There's going to be 10 people that can win a chance to sit down and talk on Zoom with Chris CJ2K Johnson, future Hall of Famer and previous fantasy football stud. Beyond excited, guys. All right, so let's get into this show right now. Top 10 wide receivers for fantasy football 2021, the ridiculously early, super early list. Let's get to it.
Taking off the gloves, I've had enough. It's in my blood. I was born for this.
Welcome to the show, guys. We are talking super early top 10 wide receivers for fantasy football 2020. If you haven't gone and done it yet, go back and listen to the top 10 running backs. Actually, the episode was just done previously before. Go back and check it a day or so ago. Go back, watch that episode. We're doing super early rankings. Again, we're doing this for fun, but I am laying out a foundation for you as well. So you have an idea, a baseline, a guideline of kind of what to expect going into 2021. Because again, you don't know how fast it's going to happen. We got right now the Super Bowl coming up. Then we've got the NFL draft. Next thing you know, as soon as that NFL draft's done, fantasy season is here. So again, it's going to be here before we know it. So smash that thumbs up. Leave some questions below. Let's deep dive. Leave your fantasy football questions below for next year. Yes, be ahead of the curve. Lion mentality. Skate to where the puck is going. You guys will be very happy with your lineups and your roster next year, because if you guys didn't win the championship this year, it's about redemption, okay? So in this episode, we're talking top 10 wide receivers. We're going to work our way down from 10 down to 1. Now, I want to make a point here and disclaimer, and I want to pat myself on the back. I want to just give myself a little, pat on the back here, on the shoulder, whatever you want to call it. I got to tell you here, I called Justin Jefferson, I called Deontay, I called Claypool, I called a lot of the stuff you're seeing here. I was off a little bit on DeAndre Hopkins. I didn't think he'd have as good of a season because I thought Fitzgerald would have had a little bit more impact in that offense. Other than that, I nailed the wide receivers this past year. Robbie Anderson finished ahead of DJ Moore. I called that because everybody was sleeping on Robbie Anderson. I was stashing him on all my rosters. Claypool had a pretty decent season, had that big run, kind of fell off. His target count could have been higher. Deontay Johnson did really well. I called that. He finished 18th amongst wide receivers. Pretty good considering a guy I got in the 8th round as my wide receiver 2-3. Justin Jefferson I got as my wide receiver 2-3 as well. For value, he had a great season as well. 251 points PPR, finished 8th amongst wide receivers. So it's about seeing things before they happen. That's what we do, right? I told you, wait on wide receiver. There's a ton of value at wide receiver. Ridley was good value. Jefferson was good value. There's a ton of good. Robert Woods was pretty good value. Anderson was good value. A.J. Brown was decent value. Deontay Johnson, Terry McLaurin, all these guys. T. Higgins was going undrafted, finished 24th amongst wide receivers. So this is a perfect example that you can wait on wide receiver. And again, I had to do a list here. It's not as clear cut as running back, but I had to go over kind of a guideline list, a pre-NFL draft list, super early list for us to have some fun, deep dive, and really get into that discussion, okay? So coming at number 10, I'm just going to deep dive into this. He finished 18th amongst wide receivers. And I want to do, again, another disclaimer here. I got Deontay Johnson at number 10, but this could change. It could be Claypool, it could be Juju. Now you're saying, well, Joe, how could you put Deontay Johnson at 10? He didn't finish 10 for 1. And number 2, the problem is, Joe, there's 3 wide receivers there that are pretty good. What's going to happen? Well, there's going to be some changes. Again, I don't like doing lists at all. 16 rounds is kind of my staple system on how I got, because I can't say, well, for example, Justin Jefferson was ranked 59th on the consensus rankings, right? He was ranked like 24th on my list. But in the 16-round draft solution, I just knew where to get him for value. That's why 16 rounds is so important, because it doesn't just go off rankings. But anyway, besides the fact, you're saying, well, Joe, how can you rank DeAndre Johnson at 10th here? Because again, you don't like those three-headed monsters. Well, again, a lot of it's going to change. Juju, who knows if he's going to end up on the Steelers? Are they going to pay him a big contract to keep him, right? I still think he's on his rookie deal here. Another thing that I like about Deontay is he had 140 targets. When I filter here by targets, right, because that's very important. That's something I look at. DeAndre Johnson was 6th in targets, and he dropped a lot of balls throughout the season, but it kind of redeemed himself near the end of the season. What I like is a lot of targets. That's the end of the line. So there's obviously some rapport with Big Ben and him, and it could be Claypool that emerges. And if you go back 2 or 3 years, AB and Juju both finished top 10. They both had 165 targets plus, right? So there's a ton of targets to go around as long as Big Ben is under center. And I think either Deontay, Claypool, or Juju are going to crack the top 10. I'm going to go Deontay this early. We're talking January 2021 as a guy that's really going to step it up here in 2021 and a guy that could crack the top 10. So I just got him in at 10 as kind of a placeholder right now. Again, this is going to totally change, but this is how I feel as of right now. Coming in number 9, I got to go with Justin Jefferson, and this is a guy that everybody slept on that went undrafted or was a late round steal, and it was a big waiver wire pickup, but not you guys who got 16 rounds because you already had Justin Jefferson. If you got the 16-round draft, so you had Justin Jefferson. He finished 8th amongst wide receivers. Now, the amazing thing here is he only had 113 targets, not as high as, let's say, a Devonta Adams or a Tyreek Hill or Stefon Diggs, but still managed to produce 251 fantasy points. He had 7 touchdowns. He did well. Now, the nice thing was he had 1,267 yards. That is where he made up a lot of his points. 1,267 yards, which put him 7th amongst wide receivers. This is a rookie guy. Now, people were shocked about this. They were like riding the train like, oh, Justin Jefferson, I love you. But I told you about this. We talked about this. We talked about him breaking it. We talked about waiting on wide receiver and loading up on the robust RB. Justin Jefferson is a guy that was a plug and play. Well, Joe, how did you know that? Number 1, he looked good in college. Number 2, Diggs in 2018. Go back and look, 150 targets. Freed up. Diggs was no longer there. It was a fill-in, plug-and-play. There was no other wide receiver on the depth chart that could have touched him, right? You had Thielen probably drawing a lot of double coverage. It's funny because actually Jefferson out-targeted Thielen 113 to 103. So maybe Thielen was seeing the double coverages, right? So that's the thought process I was thinking, that he was going to see double coverage. Sure enough, it worked out. The void with Diggs, the talent, the opportunity, the plug-and-play, the depth chart. Again, you didn't have to pay a 2nd or 3rd round pick, and you got yourself a top 10 wide receiver. That's the point I'm trying to make on why you got to wait on wide receiver. And that's why even when I see Jefferson now, his value ADP is going to be super high. I may dodge him. I may go for a rookie, or I might go for someone else I think is going to emerge and get that late round value. Because again, a lot of people are going to be going based on last year's copy and paste rankings. They're going to be drafting these guys top 10. I'm going to be drafting other people, okay? So I've got Justin Jefferson at number 9. Lots of upside and opportunity. Coming number 8, I got to go with Keenan Allen for many reasons. Number 1, he's actually proven me wrong and actually stayed durable for the past couple years, which is pretty impressive. 147 targets for Keenan Allen, 100 receptions. We're looking at 997 yards and 8 touchdowns receiving. That's pretty impressive, Keenan Allen. I'm very impressed. Now, what I like about him is the Herbert factor, right? When you are looking at him, you've got Justin Herbert throwing the ball. Now I'm going to pull up Justin Herbert's numbers here for you. What I like about him, again, when you look at attempts, I look at attempts when I look at any quarterback. I'm looking at 564 attempts. Again, this is after 16 weeks. So I did this super early. We're not even done the full 17 weeks, but a lot of people, the championship's already done right after 16 weeks. If you play a fantasy league with 17 weeks, you're crazy because a lot of players are rested. For example, Big Ben's most likely resting week 17, so that's going to impact Juju and Deontay, etc., right? It just ripples down. So when you're looking at Justin Herbert, what I like here, again, is those attempts. 564 attempts, 374 completions, had a pretty decent fantasy year, 299 points. So if Justin Herbert is throwing the ball, that's a good thing for any wide receiver because you're getting a lot of volume. So again, this is very early, but what I'm seeing, what I saw this year was a ton of volume, a ton of fantasy points, 245, which put him 9th amongst wide receivers. That's really good. And I like the upside. As long as he stays healthy, he's going to get the 147 targets, which made him 3rd in targets. So I like the volume. I like the talent, like the opportunity, like the quarterback. And I think he could probably go higher than 8, but I got him currently sitting here at 8. I'm comfortable with that. Keenan Allen, going to crack the top 10 for me most likely this fantasy football season. But am I going to pay a second or third round pick? Maybe. Depends on what running back I get first round, second round, where his ADP is going to fall. Still early to tell. Coming at number 7, I'm going to go with Allen Robinson. Not going to spend too much time here other than that Bears offense continues to improve. Now they've got a running game with Montgomery fully into the system. We're going to have to see what happens with the quarterback situation. If Trubisky's going to be the guy. I call him Trubisky, but it's Mitch Trubisky. You guys know that. Allen Robinson, again, a lot of targets, a lot of volume, 6 touchdowns. I like to see that come up a little bit. Finish 7th in PPR. I'm going to put him here at 7. I'm actually copying and pasting for now. This is going to change. Again, I don't really touch the wide receivers that much anyway when I'm looking at top 10 wide receivers. I usually wait on wide receiver, but Allen Robinson, I had to copy and paste it, give or take a spot, but I think he's in the right spot no matter what. This is the one time I'm really going to copy and paste, okay? Calvin Ridley finished 5th last year. I got him here at 6th. I had him, he could go up or down. I'm still trying to debate here. The reason I have him a little bit lower, I could put him up at 3 or 4. He finished 5th. I love the ceiling. I love the opportunity. I love the talent. But again, we're going to be suspect. I think Atlanta's going to be looking at a quarterback. We saw what's happening with Fields, looking really good out of college. We saw these quarterbacks coming out of college that look good. Trevor Lawrence. I don't know if Atlanta's not going to land Trevor Lawrence, but either way, I think they're going to have a different quarterback. So that's going to really impact Calvin Ridley. Julio Jones maybe coming back healthy. Has Julio Jones hit his peak? Is he done? Is he on the decline? That's something that we got to kind of gauge. We got to take a look at and see what's going to happen with Julio, because that's really going to affect him. Same with the quarterback situation. Is Ryan returning? There's a lot of question marks here, but currently right now, again, as a placeholder based on talent, I got Calvin Ridley at 6. That's where I like him, okay? Coming at number 5, the biggest bust for fantasy football 2020. We look at 2021. I got to put him back here, but it's Michael Thomas. Now, Michael Thomas was drafted 3rd. Pretty much 3rd across the board. I'm telling you, like when you look at everything, when you're doing drafts or you're looking at mock drafts, he was like 3rd to 5th pick across the board. Why? Because the mainstream analysts lied again. They told you draft Michael Thomas in the 3rd overall pick, 3rd to 5th pick, because he had a pinnacle year. I said he was going to decline. Once you have a Cinderella year, we saw it with CMC. I said, do not draft him 1st overall. We saw it with Michael Thomas. Do not draft him in the top 5 picks. We see this. Now, he had an ankle injury. He had all these weird injuries. He was banged up all season, and we saw a major decline. So much so that he finished 85th amongst wide receivers with 86 in PPR with 83.9 points. That is your first round pick. This is a guy that I said, do not draft a wide receiver. Go robust RB and look for a decline for Michael Thomas. Yet the mainstream kept pushing Michael Thomas. I got him at 5 right now, predicated on the fact that he comes back healthy. He's an elite receiver. He's going to get the volume. He's going to get the talent. He's got the talent. He's going to get the opportunity. He's going to bounce back if healthy, no matter what. He's going to demand the ball. I got him at 5 right now, but again, it's January, so we're going to have to see how things go, how they lay out, okay? Coming at number 4, DeAndre Hopkins. Now, this guy never seems to fail in regards to production, opportunity, talent is always there. I got him at number 4. I didn't mean to copy and paste. He actually did finish 4th here, and this could go up or down, but I only imagine that his connection with Kyler gets better this year. I imagine that they're going to completely kind of phase out Larry Fitz. I don't know what happens with Fitz next year. He's going to be the primary guy. And again, I think that rapport with Kyler is going to happen more this season. I still think they don't have a running game. I don't think Drake is the solution there in Arizona. But when I'm looking at this guy, I'm looking at 150 targets, 6 touchdowns. I want to see more touchdowns out of him. He still had 280 points, which is impressive. Am I going to invest a first-round pick? Most likely not, but I have to put him here at 4th. DeAndre Hopkins, talent, opportunity, and better rapport with Kyler Murray. Predicated he stays healthy, I like him at 4. Coming at number 3, got to put Tyreek Hill here. And he usually gets hurt every year. He did pretty good this year, played pretty much the entire season. He had 328 points. Again, this is after 16 weeks. I got him here at 3. He finished 2nd last year. With him, you're going to get those volatile games, but because you have Pat Mahomes, because you have so much consistency in that offense, it's hard not to put him in the top 3. 135 targets. That could have been more, but Kelsey gets fed so much. They have other receivers that get fed, which takes away from Tyreek Hill. He is very touchdown dependent. That's something you need to be aware of when you are looking at Tyreek Hill. 15 touchdowns after 16 weeks here. in the 2020 season. We're looking at 2021. He's got to maintain the high touchdown volume for him to maintain the top 3 spot. And of course, stay healthy. We've seen him get barred with injuries and get sidelined, off-field issues. He had such a good year this year. Is that going to continue? That kind of concerns me. Again, when I look at things that go up and down, he could be on a downwards trend based on this year. So be cautious with him. Tyreek Hill. Okay, but I got him at number 2. Coming in number 3, a guy that finished number 1 last year. I got Devonta Adams coming at number 2. The reason I have Devonta Adams at 2 is because I have a guy above him that I think his ceiling might be a little bit higher. Devonta Adams, obviously and arguably, you could say arguably, but for me, it's obvious that he is the best wide receiver in the game. You could make a debate with Hopkins. You can make a debate with other guys, but I definitely do like Devonta Adams here, okay? By the way, I just forgot about somebody here that I should have put in the list. People are going to be asking about him, is DK Metcalf. And again, this is going to change. So let's just say Deontay Johnson, Metcalf, those guys could be top 10 for me. I apologize. I forgot about DK Metcalf. I want to make a note there for him. Okay, back to Devonta Adams here. We're going to get back to that in a second with Metcalf. But Devonta Adams, 142 targets, 17 touchdowns, very touchdown dependent, okay? But I want to make a note here. What goes up must come down. 341 points after 16 weeks. Is that going to maintain? We don't know. It depends on how Aaron Rodgers does here. Does he win the Super Bowl? How far does he make it? A lot of that is predicated because, again, with Aaron Rodgers, if he does really well, goes far, could have blew his load, right? He had a chip on his shoulder going in the year. I knew Adams would have a good year, but this good, I mean, didn't expect it this much, but he crushed it this year. I got him at 2 right now. And again, there's a ton more upside for him next year. But again, what goes up must go down. Be cautious, and 17 touchdowns is very hard to replicate, okay? It's going to probably be more after, week 17. All right, and number 1 here, again, before I get to number 1, I got to tell you, DK Metcalf, I want to put him in here. I'm not sure where. My concern with DK Metcalf is here, and I know a lot of people are asking me about DK Metcalf. Trust me, I love the talent, I love the opportunity, and I love DK Metcalf, who finished 6th. My problem is 120 targets. I'd like to see more there. He had 10 touchdowns, 1,282 yards. I want to see more than 120 targets. When I'm looking at a wide receiver, I want to see more volume. 120 targets puts him 14th in targets. There is guys that get more targets than him. Terry McLaurin, Robbie Anderson, Calvin Ridley, Deontay Johnson, Cooper Kupp, Robert Woods, Amari Cooper. There is guys that get more volume than him. So that's one issue I have with him. I want to see him get more volume, and this was a perfect year for him to get that. He still had a good year. So I'm going to probably swap him out with Deontay eventually. Again, I'm just feeling it out here. I just want to get a feel of how things happen after the NFL draft, how the depth charts fall, quarterback situations changes. But I had to mention DK Metcalf here because, again, I think he deserves to be here. I think there's other guys that are going to crack the top 10, maybe even T. Higgins, right? Burrow comes back. He connects with Higgins. Higgins has a great year. There's other guys that are going to crack the top 10 next year, but I just kind of got to go a little bit off last year and just getting a feel for it. It's very early, okay? But I had to mention DK Metcalf. Coming in at number 1, the number 1 fantasy football wide receiver for 2020 has to be Stefon Diggs. I'm doing this for a couple of reasons, okay? Number 1, he was number 1 in targets. I love that. I really base a lot of my rankings, a lot of my player selection on volume, because if you get a lot of targets, you're going to eat a lot, which equals fantasy points. And we saw that. We saw that in fantasy points. 158 targets equals number 3 in fantasy points, 314. I don't think he's even hit his ceiling, right? 459 yards, amazing. That's really, really good. Number 1 in yards. I'd like to see more touchdowns, 8 touchdowns. Now, when you compare that, still think there's more ceiling there. He's 8th in touchdowns. When you compare it to a guy like Thielen, who had 14, Tyreek Hill, who had 15, and Devonta Adams, who had 17, I still think there's more juice in the tank, and I still think the rapport with Josh Allen only gets better. The more Allen gets, progresses in his career, I think he gets more accurate, he gets better, and that rapport gets built up. And I really feel that Diggs and Allen could have a better year next year. He's solid, he's secure. He's a guy that's, I think, continues to grow. And I think his ceiling is a little higher than Devonta Adams next year, okay? So I got him sitting at number 1. Again, this is super early. This is probably going to change, but that's the way I have it, okay? So let's recap here. From 10 all the way to 1, Deontay Johnson or a wide receiver from the Steelers is going to crack the top 10 next year. Not sure who, but you could swap him out with DK Metcalf, or you could put DK Metcalf somewhere even higher on this top 10 list. I got to give him an honorable mention. I think the talent is there. I think he's special. I forgot to mention him. I just, not that I forgot. I just feel that the targets should be better. I just need to feel this out. So this is not my final list, okay? So that's number 10, Deontay Metcalf, someone like that. Number 9, Justin Jefferson. He could be higher, but I need to see more. Thielen's going to be there as well. That kind of bothers me. But I like Jefferson at 9. Number 8, Keenan Allen. Number 7, Allen Robinson. Number 6, Calvin Ridley. Number 5, Michael Thomas. Number 4, DeAndre Hopkins. Number 3, Tyreek Hill. Number 2, Devonta Adams. Number 1, Stefon Diggs. The super early top 10 fantasy football wide receivers for 2021. I had some fun here, guys. I mean, it's all about talking, discussing, feeling it out, and really trying to figure out how things are going to fall into place for 2021 super early. In fact, so early, it's the second day of January. But it is what it is, guys. Got to get into this, got to deep dive, roll up the sleeves, and give you this information as soon as I can, right? So you guys get the competitive edge. That's why we go year round. So listen, guys, join the community. If you got exclusive access to me, Fantasy 365, head on over to thefantasyfootballcounselor.com under programs, or guys, right on the link here below. If you're on YouTube, I put it there. And if you guys purchase and pre-order the 365, Fantasy 365, or the 60-round draft solution, either one of those, if you pre-order one of them, you're entered for a chance to win a live call with CJ2K Johnson on February 9th, guys. Beyond excited. All right. Head on over there, guys. Pre-order and enjoy fantasy football playoffs if you're in it in week 17 or whenever you're listening to this. And fantasy football 2021 is going to be here before we know it. Enjoy the Super Bowl. Enjoy everything. Enjoy the offseason. Enjoy the draft. I'm beyond excited for 2021 fantasy football. Thanks, guys. I appreciate it. I'm out. Smash thumbs up. Really helps the channel. See ya.